Hey everyone, this is Sean from Sysadmin Sean. I wanted to do a quick, impromptu, unscripted video about what's been happening as a sysadmin topic to discuss. By now, you probably know about this individual somewhere in this area. There'll be a picture. Jack Teixeira and his position within the U.S. government and the data leak, essentially, the secret U.S. documents that have been put out on the internet. I want to talk about how that could have occurred from an IT perspective, what the government is probably doing, again, from an IT perspective, and what you should consider if you are going to be an IT person or if you're an end user and are worried about your IT people. So the first thing is, why did he have access? Everyone's asking that right now. There's apparently a court hearing today. They're probably going to discuss that. It sounds like from a Reddit thread that I'm following, referencing a Washington Post article, that this person was basically a junior sysadmin type position or a support specialist. There are many reasons why they would have access to this data, either for support for end users, to being on the support team that manages the storage device or storage bucket or data lake, or however the government stores their data. I can't speak on that. But he might have been part of the team that helped protect, patch, manage, distribute, assign permissions to this data. That would mean that he would probably have to have quite a lot of access. Another way he could have had access is via social engineering. If he is an internal bad actor, which is pretty much what he is at this point as far as IT is concerned, he did a bad thing and he worked there, internal bad actor. He might have social engineered his way in via a supervisor, via an end user that needed help with something else, and he saw these documents on their computer and then yoinked them. Those kind of things can happen. That's a whole reason why we have the protocols and procedures we have in place for IT security and for data security that we continue to improve upon and build on and things of that nature. Now, this data should have been in a very specific data standard type. There's definitely stuff for things like HIPAA, Title IX, PII, PCI data. So HIPAA data is your health data. Title IX is for, can't remember exactly everything it covers right now, but it's protections. And there's data that can be tied to Title IX that needs to be guarded and protected. PII data is personal information. PCI data is credit card transaction data, so card numbers, CC, what is it, a CCV, CVV, that special number on the back. And then you have stuff like research data. So if you work with research faculty or a research department, sometimes they work with data that belongs to NASA, that belongs to the Department of Energy, that belongs to the Department of Defense. And they're doing research with this data, and you have very specific standards you have to follow in protecting and giving and removing access to this data. And then, of course, there's also corporate secrets. So a company maybe has a very specific way that they design a product. They don't want that getting out so that everyone knows how to make the same product they've got. That data has to be protected. Now, a lot of the ways that this stuff is protected is least privileged access. You only give the people that absolutely need access, and everyone else stays out. The problem is a lot of people don't realize that, for instance, let's say HR data. Say they have data on all the workers. Well, okay, that belongs to HR, and finance doesn't need that data. And, the people that work inventory and shipping and receiving don't need that data. But the IT department kind of needs access to that data too, because they're going to be expected to protect that data and keep it safe. So they need to be able to see that data to make sure that the data is protected and audited and kept safe. So it's two groups at that point that have access to that data. That's as least privilege as it gets. Now, within your IT infrastructure, you should only have data administrators, support folks, and things of that stuff. That's why you have a tiered system, a tier 1 help desk, tier 2, tier 3, so on and so forth. Your call center folks don't need access to data to do data restores, but they need to have access to know, hey, this is related to HR data. I don't have access to that. I have to escalate this ticket to the person that does have access. That's really important. And then there's also a thing known as just-in-time access. This is something that doesn't get implemented as often as it probably should. Basically, you just get access when you need to fix something, and then you lose access when you're done with it. That probably would have helped a little bit in this scenario if it's a scenario where he was a support person helping someone with data and then needed to have his access removed. The problem is he would still have had access in that window. So if he wasn't, working as an internal bad actor, he's just going to do what he needs to do when he gets a just-in-time window. And again, could have been socially engineered to get that access temporarily or, all the time. That's probably a big part of what's going on. Now, what the government is working on, obviously, is the investigation, the, smoothing things over, because apparently a lot of this data had to do with a lot of things that we said we weren't doing and we were doing. I'm not getting into that. Check out articles, follow the news, whatever you want to follow there. But they're not talking about what the government IT folks are doing, which they're reviewing all the processes, figuring out, they're going to be asked a ton of questions. How did he get this data? When did he get this data? How did he get this data out of the facility? So on and so forth. A lot of these facilities, no cell phones, no Bluetooth devices, no USB keys. All of this stuff is very locked down. If you have a work laptop, it's probably super encrypted. And if you don't put in a password, it wipes itself and reports itself stolen, etc., etc. I've worked in an environment where cell phones were not allowed for anybody, even though my job position did not require me to ever go anywhere near corporate trade secrets due to the requirements that the company had to have to maintain their DoD security clearance. No cell phones for anybody. So I couldn't take a cell phone on site. I couldn't make calls, no text, nothing like that. I had to just work 8 hours and then go home. Luckily, this was before smartphones were really a big deal. So I didn't go insane. But yeah, there's all of that. So they're gonna review a lot of their processes and procedures to find out exactly how this happened and if there's anything they can do to fix it in the future. If this person was a junior sysadmin, they may have followed all the procedures, and it just so happened that this is a bad person doing bad stuff. That's how that works. Sometimes you can have all the wonderful procedures in the world, but if you've trusted somebody as a domain administrator or a storage administrator or anything like that, and you've given them this access, you've said, this person has met all of our requirements, that we trust him with his data. They don't show any sign of wanting to, damage the infrastructure at all or anything like that. So cool. That's all they can do at that point. Who do you trust? If you can't trust anybody, then how do you have any data? Pretty much, so that's one of those things IT security can't fix, is people are, we can't reprogram people. We can't really control people in the way we can control systems. So we do the best we can to control the systems we manage to make sure that the people don't accidentally or intentionally do damaging things. Should you worry about your IT folks? If you're a regular end user, most of your higher up IT folks have access to any data you've put on a corporate device, bar none. Do they care? No, they don't want to see your data. They really don't want to see that you have secure data open to the world. That is a huge problem that I've dealt with everywhere I've worked, is that high-level people are very careless with very sensitive data, and they don't realize they're being careless, or they don't care that they're careless. So when we do PII scans across our entire infrastructure and say, hey, why do you have this text file on the desktop of your computer that you let your students log into that's full of credit card numbers and usernames and passwords? And the professor goes, well, I didn't know that they could probably see that, or that they would look. And trust me, if it's there, someone's going to look, because they usually are curious. Humans are curious. That's just part of it. But, should you worry about your IT folks? Should you have a big meeting where you discuss what IT can see and what IT can't see? No, they're already working on that stuff. You can contact your security officer, your CISO, your security technicians, and say, hey, I saw about all this. What do we do as an organization to protect ourselves from these sorts of situations? And they're going to give you this list. And if you're a new person coming into IT, you're probably learning about stuff like this in your cybersecurity classes and your InfoSec security classes. So all this, but a lot of people are maybe curious a little bit more about the IT side of things and how it could have happened. Again, I don't know anything about how the military runs its IT operation. But if it's anything like an IT operation I've ran, there's a lot of flaws because of red tape or cost or people that don't want to implement or people that don't get enough time to implement and just need it to work, quote unquote. under a deadline that they did not get to pick. So that isn't to say that this is a situation where those kind of mistakes were made. It's just that there's a possibility that any one of those, anything that I've mentioned, you know, social engineering, access because they thought he deserved access, poor implementation of least privilege, poor implementation of just-in-time access or data type standards, poor user understanding of where they were putting their data. That's what I want to talk about. I'm going to put a link to the Reddit thread in the description and probably in the pinned comment below. So if you want to see some more feedback from other individuals that appear to have been in the military and worked IT, or regular IT individuals, CISOs, CIOs, folks like that, and how they feel that this was handled and how everything went down. It's a really good read. It's pretty interesting to get some different perspectives on things. I highly recommend it. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. Let me know if you want more of this sysadmin topic in the news type video. And we'll see you in the next one.